Babies are universally seen as safe in their cribs, but to a certain kind of predator, an infant is simply an easy target. Across many Indian communities, there is a strict tradition governing the first days of a child's life. For exactly 14 days postpartum, the mother and the newborn are placed in total isolation, no visitors and no outings. This diagram illustrates the spiritual vulnerability during birth. The sheer physical trauma causes the natural protective auras of both mother and child to collapse. At the same time, their bodies radiate massive amounts of raw energy. To a negative entity, this looks like a beacon in the dark. Surviving this window relies on specific physical safeguards. On the 14th day, all bed linens must be thoroughly washed or burned, and the bed itself must be physically rotated. This disorientation tactic throws spiritual trackers off the scent and establishes a new protective barrier. Shweta and her husband Shubham were progressive, modern parents living in Bilaspur. When their first daughter, Oshi, was born, they saw no logical reason to follow this tradition. They completely bypassed the 14-day quarantine rules. Dismissing ancient protocols in the name of modern progress doesn't make a family enlightened. It simply leaves the spiritual door wide open for an entity to walk through. 2 months passed quietly. Then Shweta's sister was scrolling through top-down photos of baby Oshi. In the margins of the frame, underneath the baby, there was an adult-sized hand reaching up. Shweta was also experiencing disturbing events herself: phantom voices in empty rooms, the sensation of being touched, and debilitating sleep paralysis. But she used the medical diagnosis of postpartum depression to rationalize her primal gut feelings away. Then the anomalies crossed over into biology. Every time Shweta finished feeding Oshi, the newborn would violently vomit an unexplained bright yellow fluid. Doctors ran tests, but biologically, the baby was completely healthy. The turning point happened late one night. Shubham woke to the sound of his wife suffocating next to him. When he turned to check on his daughter, he saw Oshi suspended half a foot in the air, floating completely untethered above her mattress. Psychological rationalizations inevitably collapse when a supernatural threat crosses the threshold into physical, undeniable reality. Out of medical options, the family brought in a local sannyasi. He took one look at the crying infant and diagnosed a long-standing dark attachment that had already bonded itself to the child. The sannyasi prescribed a specific spiritual restraint, a simple black thread to act as a lock around Oshi's neck. But it came with rigid operational rules. The thread couldn't be removed until age 18, and her hair couldn't be tied until age 14. For years, this worked flawlessly. Oshi grew into a healthy, normal child, entirely separated from the entity that had terrorized her early months. Fast forward to Oshi in the 1st grade. Her school was hosting a Janmashtami play, and Oshi was chosen to dress up as the deity Radha. While getting her ready, a teacher decided the black thread clashed with the costume. She removed it and tossed it in Oshi's bag. That single action immediately triggered the entity's return. When Shweta retrieved the thread later, it reeked of rotting flesh. Days later, she woke up to the sensation of a grown man sitting on her chest, choking her. Spiritual defenses do not offer a middle ground. They hold or they fail completely. A single aesthetic choice shattered a decade of protection. Realizing the original sannyasi had passed away, the family made an emergency trip to a powerful Baba in Jalan for a final confrontation. The Baba initiated a ritual to force a confrontation. He placed Shweta and Oshi on the floor, isolating them inside a thick, protective boundary of salt to contain whatever was about to emerge. As the ritual chants began, Shweta lost consciousness. A moment later, she violently snapped completely upright. Her posture became completely stiff and wooden, like a mannequin. When she spoke, it was in a deep, masculine voice. The entity threatened the Baba, demanding he stop the ritual, and insisted that he was going to take the child. This demand reframed the haunting as a calculated long-term hostage situation. Pressed by the Baba, the entity finally gave a name: Rehan. He was an interfaith lover from Oshi's past life. Because of their differing religions, her previous family had murdered him to stop the romance. Before he died, Rehan swore he would return to claim her. This timeline illustrates Rehan's strategy. The 14-day aura breach gave him a point of entry, but the sannyasi had warned that Ashi's infant body lacked the energy to withstand a full attachment. By bonding with Shweta instead, Rehan could remain close and wait for the child's own energy to mature. Realizing the root of the attachment, the Baba performed a final set of specific mantras. He threw holy water onto Shweta, drawing out a deafening scream from the entity before it was permanently banished, severing the karmic tie. Modern society often dismisses ancient folklore as primitive superstition, but these old rules usually exist for a reason, acting as necessary survival manuals for karmic debts we don't even remember owing.